Congratulations to all of you for making that. Everybody, 5 minutes to
In India, it is not uncommon for the government to cut off electricity in small rural villages in order to fund and conserve power for large cities. This kind of behavior is an epidemic around the globe and is far from rare, ladies and gentlemen. We believe this behavior is morally questionable, and we can rectify and fix this moral aberration by implementing the policy of making taxes far more aggressive in urban areas, resulting in better outcomes, principally, and for the rural people. What is our model today and how we implement our policy? So we view this taxation as a form of double taxation. What does this mean? It means, one, you pay income tax like every normal citizen of an urban area, but on top of that, you pay an urban income tax special to you because you live in this city. Both taxes will come in progressive form, meaning the poorer people will pay less, but the richer people will pay more, but the poor people in the cities will pay both. What about the very, very, very poor who cannot pay? We tell you these people don't even pay income tax in the first place, so are unaffected by our policy. The poor people who can kind of pay, yes, we can see will have to pay this extra urban income tax, but it will be at a lower rate than the urban rich. No, thank you. We can see that some urban citizens will suffer, especially the middle class, who are a large chunk of their income taken out. But we are entirely okay with this. Why? Because they are far better off than anyone in rural areas. Their lives are better. Why? Number one, they actually have better lives, better income, they can afford more things, higher standard of living. And number two, cities by far benefit from the most state help, state funding, and thus the middle class need to pay for this. We believe the entirety of today's debate must function on one key assumption, right? Efficacy. So this whole thing will work, this whole thing will be passed, and all governments will buy into it. If not, there can be very little room for debate. Moving on into my principal justification, which is key to today's debate, ladies and gentlemen. The middle class in these urban areas, everyone in these urban areas, get the best schools, the best roads, the best train systems, because the government inevitably pander to the rich, because they gain the most financial capital from the rich. It can't be argued that the state pander to the poor, because even if they are the majority, they are where the votes come from, this, that, it is far easier to pander to the poor, ladies and gentlemen. What does it mean? So it means that when governments pander to the poor, they give them really low concessions. Things like, oh, a laptop here, 500 ringgit there to get you through the month. Vague, religious and right promises that they never deliver on once they're in office. But the rich demand far more and thus get a much larger chunk of government budget. Tangible things like better roads, better transport, better healthcare, better schools that the poor are denied. Thus, it is clear that it's the rich in the urban areas who gain more from this. Not just the rich, anyone who lives in the urban areas who are comparatively richer than the rural areas. They gain more from taxes, they give more from government expenditure, and that it is essential that they are the ones who pay more. We can make government change now by rerouting more money to rural areas, by using the money we have gained from the urban areas, which has now been principally justified. But moving on, right, beyond just the principle of it, why does our policy actively make better change for rural areas, developing areas, than status quo? Before I get into that, yes, if you're right.
Why do you think that the rich won't ask for more since they are paying for more?
I will get to that eventually. Thank you very much for bringing it up. So first and foremost, let's take a quick look at status quo. The big thing that we can rely on to drive rural communities is trickle-down economics. Ladies and gentlemen, this does not work. And here's why. The whole underlying assumption is this: to help the poor people, you allow big urban businesses to grow, get powerful, expand, make output larger. To do this, you allow companies to grow because the idea is that profit and the income trickle down to the poor workers across the country. We tell you this doesn't work because it's a circular form of argumentation, right? Because for this to work, right, company needs to grow big to get the profits to funnel down. How do they grow big? You do things like low minimum wage, lower their costs. You do things like a low emphasis on sustainability standards, low emphasis on good working condition standards, low income, low corporate tax, in order for them to grow big. Because in order for the trickle-down economics to work, before the money to go down, they need to grow big. So thus, it's circular, right? It doesn't work. When they grow big, you have to screw over the poor people, and that's what you're trying to achieve. No good outcome comes from it. We prefer a world where we forcibly take money from big, rich, urban firms and individuals, and we funnel it to the poor rural areas. It's more effective because the money is direct. There's no reliance on other third-party individuals and firms to funnel the money to the poorer people. We do it directly. But now addressing their POI, okay? No, thank you. Why is it better? They ask the question of why will not this big money gained from urban areas now be funneled back to the urban states across the country, right? Here's why, answering also the question of why we have a better alternative than anything they can put forth. First and foremost, the more selfish level answer is simple. More taxes, more resources for the government, right? Higher taxes, higher government budget. So they can now funnel more money to the rural areas. But now answering why. Because everyone in the country knows of this policy. Everyone knows that there's more money now in government hands. It becomes far harder for government to justify only focusing on big cities like KL or JB, right? Because now they can no longer say things like KL is our most important city. It's all our ambassadors live. It's the center of our world. The world looks at us through KL, right? So we have to give all our money to them. Now that everyone knows there's so much money, it's easier for poorer people in rural areas to say, look, we have more money now, we deserve more of that. It's easier to campaign and demand more things because they cannot claim that they cannot help. And thirdly, more importantly, right, even if they do choose to pamper to the rich still, right, even if governments choose to stick to the rich areas, we still say it's still preferable on our side. And here's why. Number one, we limit what they can do for the rich. Because look at it, KL is already so far developed, there's not so much movement for better growth. But the sky for far better growth in rural areas is far greater. Even if it's 80-20 distribution now in terms of income, it now can become 70-30. So even if there's still priority on cities, the split becomes less so and rural areas get more. But even if the portion stays the same, even if the government budget stays 80-20, 80 to urban, 20 to rural, we still, at worst, that's still principally okay because it's the same proportion of the pie, but the pie is even bigger. So even though it's still 20% going to rural areas, the 20% is far more. And governments will not increase in proportion. They'll never make it 100, 0. This is a stupid assumption to make. People, if that ever happens, they'll face huge public backlash from rural areas and urban areas alike. They must adhere to both sides. It is not acceptable for them ever to claim they will give all the money to the rich urban areas. So thus, we believe we provide the better moral justification and the better outcome for rural areas to grow in developing nations. I've never been prouder to propose. Thank you very much.
The clearly ignore the fact of how the definition of the developing nations are. They clearly ignore the fact that how developing nations doesn't really have this much rich people that they expect under their side. So we will tell you that these people are not really necessarily rich or have the high income, because there are still people who are still developing in order to get the income and also to be able to live in that nation in their country. So firstly, I will go on my rebuttals that I got from government side. So they told you how poor people, rich people were able to get taxed equally, and so based on their policy that they want to do. But eventually, you have to really know that these people these poor people that they're trying to say can even afford a house. So this is how it even burdens these people and not able to get access they have in these kinds of areas that they have gone through this. Okay, so even if you give this money, even if under the asset, you want to give the money to these poor people, and so we think that they will never achieve the thing that they want to achieve at the end of the day. So this is where it doesn't really come a benefit under the asset, which I will tell you the harms of their policy in my arguments. So people live in urban areas only have these so basically another rebuttal is that people live in urban areas also already have a burden where they have to pay stuff like with expensive prices, and so when it comes to cities, so it's harder for them. So when you have these kinds of tax and also prices that are very high, so this is where it shows an inequality for these people to have the access to where they are going in the first place. So firstly, let's really understand the definition of developing nations. It is called developing nations in the first place. So this is where it shows that these people are currently developing, and not everyone or not people. Everyone are in people where they still have. It's true that the lowest income is still considered rich according to that country, but still these people will be burdened by this kind of aggressively tax because by these taxes that you have on the your side. So basically, you're just burdening them and having them to even pay more. So this is where let's really understand how is it meant to be to live in urban areas. So we already see how urban areas are now, or we have all those people with setting with high prices, and so this is where it's already burdening these people to be in that. So we see how urban areas is very attractive place where they have good facilities, and so this is where people from villages come to have these kinds of access. So when they eventually are coming from the lower income, and so when you have these people to live in there to get a job, to get jobs, and so to have better facilities, and for example like education and schools, this is where urban areas have these kinds of access. So this is why people opt to go into urban areas, is because they want to get the access that they can't able to get it in their own places, where they have better health care, where they have hospitals, and so this is where it becomes a burden when you have to give this tax to people who live in that just to get the access they want. So basically, this is just a punishment for those people who try to go into these urban areas. So let's understand the metrics of taxation. Okay? It is unjustified to those people who live in the urban areas to be taxed aggressively. Just because they live there, just because they want better facilities, like for example, like what I said before, where you have people from villages and so to come here to get this access. So we think that it's unjustified for them to eventually have this kind of policy. Because basically you have these facilities to eventually give to the people who are also afford to get it in their years. So when you have this kind of when you eventually have this tax or eventually have this policy to these people in these urban areas, basically you're just burdening them, and eventually just give them a punishment, but eventually they try to get this facilities in the first place. So this is why under our side we would like to prove you that it is very important to have the metrics of taxation where we incur it's according to their income, because like what I said before, we have to understand that these urban areas, there are still people who are at the lowest spectrum of the urban areas. There are rich people, but it's a little amount of rich people that we can see. There are still middle classes, and there are still lower according to that area. So this is where it's very helpful for you to eventually give this policy to the citizens in that nation. So basically, this is how our policy, or this is how when we eventually tax people according according to their income, it's much better. It comes to a better. It gives better benefits towards the people, towards the lowest spectrum of their urban areas, and also the whole country. This is where under outside we will protect these lowest spectrum of people at the urban areas. Because when we are able to actually tax people according to their income, this is why it's better. So basically, when we so in conclusion to this to my argument, this is where we are able to actually cater to the whole society according to what people are able to afford. Because we shouldn't be punishing them because they live in an urban area or so to actually just tax them aggressively. So let's see what are the harms of this policy. What are the harms of the policy that? So this is what you have this policy on their side. Basically, they're just opting out of the place that they are. So this is where it also harms the urban areas that there is in that. So the facilities are not going to be developed also because of less people coming into these places. Where less people are coming to these places because they know if they come here, they eventually will be taxed they will be taxed more because they eventually are just in that area because they live in the area, although they come there is just to get jobs and bad taxes. So this is where our side will help. So basically, this is where our side will actually help to cater the most to everyone in society according to your income and not because of where you live. So that I read to you.
What it sounded like from the leader of opposition speech is that some opposition would prefer a world where we use income tax rather than aggressively taxing the rich. That reaction literally shows you that you weren't listening to the first and most important part of Musta's speech, where he would say that those things could happen simultaneously. But the fact that income tax and status quo isn't enough means that we must amp up our taxation and aggressively put our foot down in terms of how the rich become richer. We think side government is one that is more inclusive and one that addresses problems in the real world rather than allowing the status quo, which continues to perpetuate cyclical poverty in rural areas. We think it's high time to change that. I'm going to do several things in my speech. Number one, I'm going to draw over the principal justification as to why this policy must come in place. Secondly, I'll address the middle class individuals, whether or not they move into rural areas, what happens when they move out of into urban areas, out of urban areas, why that's necessarily a good or bad thing. Thirdly, I'll talk to you about why the alternatives in status quo haven't worked and why we must push for this change. And lastly, why the outcomes of this policy in totality are in the best interest of society. First thing, principal justification. So we told you in Musta's speech that in a lot of instances, we can punish individuals who live in urban areas because they already have good facilities. You know, they have a better standard of living, stuff like this. But I'm going to take this further. We also think that a lot of individuals who are rich in urban areas become rich because they exploit poor in rural areas. So you have all these timber workers, right, who go to your rural areas, they cut down all the trees in your kampong, they make profit out of this, and then they move into urban areas where they can buy their sports cars and live in Bukit Daman Sara. All of these things are evidences to show that because these individuals have exploited a small group of individuals, the state must punish them for it and allow some form of reciprocity to individuals who are victims as a result. We also think there are instances where individuals, like the middleman, selling agricultural goods, these are individuals who also exploit the poor in the same way. We think that the states must punish these individuals within those circumstances. No, thank you. But secondly, right, they said you cannot punish individuals by virtue of where they live. We think the world punishes individuals by virtue of where they are born. So if the poor people remain poor because all your resources go to the rich, because they were are the individuals we will punish anyway. So we think it's high time that the government, at the very least, manages that punishment and directs it to the individuals who are responsible for poverty and responsible for atrocities that happen in the world. We think it is far, like state punishment is far better than the market forces punishment that are always in favor of the rich. No, thank you. Secondly, they talked about the middle class individuals. They said, you know what, you'll punish middle class individuals who pay double the tax in these areas. The first thing we told you was that even if they have to pay more tax, these are individuals who still have access to better schools, so they probably get a better education even if it's more expensive. Or they pay less money on, you know, like fueling their motorcycles to travel 3 km to the nearest school. Instead, they can take the bus or they can take LRTs because those things are far more accessible to them, decreasing their cost of living. We think it's far, they're largely compensated by a lot of other state-given privileges within status quo. We think it's fine to punish them for it. But secondly, even if in the worst possible instance they suffer and they have to move out of rural areas, we think that's a good thing because number one, if they have to move to rural areas, you have far more resources within rural areas for individuals there. But secondly, if you increase the lobbying power for those places because you have more influential individuals and just bigger clout within those areas to make structural changes in your favor. But lastly, we think it's preferable that these individuals live mediocre lives in rural areas as opposed to a world of tragedy under your side where they're still complicit in all the harms that happen in the capital and the left to live a better life in Kuala Lumpur. We think that those justifications still stand and the middle class individuals are still better off in our world, even if they're not. At the very least, their suffering contributes to a greater good for more individuals. We think it's completely fine. Third thing we're talking about, alternatives and why that's failed. Mustaqim elaborately in his speech why trickle-down economics doesn't work and why the rich continues to pander to the government and therefore they have more room to grow with less impositions from the state, right? We think that I'm going to take this further in my speech and why we cannot necessarily pander more in status quo. The first thing under our policy, the first thing I will say is that like the government is already giving them a lot, right? They're giving them so much in status quo. So individuals on the ground are already can already see that concessions being made. We think states are less likely to give them more concessions because number one, they are not at the capacity to. So if you continue to lower minimum wages, they will eventually have no wage. And there's only so far they can go. But secondly, we think even if we make those concessions, it is far more likely that we're able to at least attain more income from corporations, which is still a good thing. But we also think that the state is liable to the public, which means that if they are too focused on businesses and if they continue to make concessions more than they do in status quo, they will probably lose public support, especially from the middle class and the rural areas who know that there is a bigger pool of money, but it's still being funneled and funneled to rich corporations who are still becoming richer. So we think like governments are far more accountable under outside the house because we give them less of a reason to prioritize corporations. There's more money in the pool, some of that money should continue to go to the poor. So we think that under their side of the house, they need to prove why that alternative doesn't work. I'll take a few eyes before I move on to the next alternative.
So exploiting people will happen regardless if you're living in urban or rural areas. So why can't you just tax the individual themselves?
We would do that also. The point is, if you think that if you're in an urban area, you have sacrificed resources and the livelihoods of other people in rural areas, and that's why we would tax you. Dude, listen, bro. The last alternative, right? Altruism. We think, and this is like new arguments from my speech now. Altruism is unsustainable for several reasons because it only gives you that satisfaction at the point at which you feel like you want to do good. So if you do wrong, then you want to help out the poor and contribute. So in instances where you don't feel like you want to do it, then you don't do it. So it's unsustainable. But more importantly, right? We think things like altruism and charity makes the rich richer because you're entitled to things like tax breaks, which means that cyclical, right? Not only is it unsustainable, it makes the rich far richer and the disparity becomes far worse, right? In a world under our side, we don't allow you to make the decision. We think that altruism is a responsibility that you must have because these are individuals who obviously exploited rural areas and because other lives are forgone as a result, right? So we think they owe a responsibility and we will force them to pay this. But secondly, even if in the worst possible instance, people become less altruistic and do not donate to charity, we think that it's okay because at least under outside the house, states are far more accountable for those losses and states can compensate for the lack of charity that happens within status quo. So under your side, you are heavily dependent on individuals feeling good and wanting to do good, which is unsustainable. You prefer a world where states have an objective responsibility and must reallocate those resources and make the decision for individuals who probably wouldn't have wanted to do it. We're extremely proud to propose.
Living in an urban area doesn't mean I can get access to facilities as easy as all those rich people get. Just because I live there doesn't mean my parents' monthly income is just as much as those people who live in Beverly Heights, in UK, Branda, like all those places. I don't come from that form of background. These are individuals who make up more of those places rather than your rich people who are concentrated in some place. But even then, we think taxation in which we give these individuals who are directly rich, like you have progressive taxation, if you want to increase progressive taxation, then okay, but it needs to be specific towards individuals and never a blanket policy, because people who exploit are like individuals. You can't tell me just because I benefit from these privileges, I'm also complicit as I see these people exploit all those poor individuals. Like, it doesn't work that way. So 2 things I'm going to talk about in my speech. Number 1, how you harm the flow of movement for individuals, especially the in and out of town. And secondly, how you change the individual's perspective of lifestyles. But before that, a few responses. Firstly, they tell you that, guys, there are a lot of firms in urban areas. Like, sure, a lot of big rich firms, but there are also small SMEs, entrepreneurs who are trying to make a living. At the point in which you increase that taxation, it becomes harder for all these small businessmen who are trying to make it good just because they are living in urban areas. Having seen, but even more than that, we think companies do pay significant tax. While it's true they pay tax breaks, but they also get taxed a lot at some point in time. But thirdly, we think companies would now want to avoid doing CSR. They are less likely going to reach out to schools because they expect that the state is doing it for me, so I have no reason to do it. I have no reason to give back because state is already taking back that money from me. No, thank you. But even more than that, we think this is why you give companies the ability to demand more from the government, to demand more access towards these individuals within rural areas, to demand a lot of ways in which I can expand because you're already taking much from me. So the economics here is that I lose a lot from paying tax. I also want to gain a lot more in terms of balancing all those losses. So that's why companies are more likely going to be aggressive at the point in which you allow this form of taxation to happen. But secondly, they told you that you want to help out rural areas. Having seen, we think it only depends on how many rich people there are. At the point in which rich people suddenly move out to rural areas and now you're left with the majority of middle income individuals, that's why you're going to lose out on your taxation. That's why you prefer the alternative. You identify specific individuals and you tax them highly right there. But even more than that, have we seen? We think the way in which states are accountable, in status quo states are seen, you have to put states accountable regardless, we pay tax anyway. So the comparative is very marginal, because you pay tax more, I don't think states will necessarily be that more accountable anyway. So the way in which you want to have state reforms or state welfare is something mechanistic and can happen in opposition as well. It's not something that depends on how much money you have, but necessarily how you reallocate this money towards poorer individuals. So the way in which you want to hold the state accountable, it already happens because AUP isn't contesting a world in which no one pays tax. We always have to go back to the state.
Sure. Under your side of the house, which is more likely, the rich moving out of urban areas where they can afford a livelihood, or your middle class who cannot afford a livelihood?
So I think the middle class would necessarily stay there because I'll tell you why rural areas would now also become a bit more expensive because rich people go there and people mark up the price, but that's for later. So what did Albert tell you, which was really important? She told you that firstly, how do these areas look like? She told you guys, it's actually hard. Groceries are 500 ringgit a month. You get 4,500 in a household income. It's very hard for you to live for individuals. Assuming you have a big family, it becomes even harder. Assuming you get all those taxation, it becomes even harder for you to buy books, for you to buy tuition, for you to invest in your life. That's the world in which these individuals want. Because also, we don't think it's fair for them to punish. Because a lot of times, these are individuals who move from rural areas or who are from backgrounds which are not that great. Hence, they want the access. They want better healthcare. They want better education. For you to punish them and for you to make it even harder for them, it's simply unfair because they never consented to all those exploitation the rich people did. But even more than that, she also told you how it becomes harmful at the point in which rich individuals, at the point in which this form of taxation happens. When like states don't necessarily fund all these places, all these urban areas anymore, what this means is you are less likely going to get free education. You are less likely going to get your free healthcare because a lot of private hospitals and a lot of private schools are more likely going to open up there because individuals who are from poorer like cannot afford to live in urban areas. So the conclusion to this is that a lot of people lose out. Only your rich people might be able to survive. By the point in which they also opt out, I don't think it's a great alternative. So first argument, how do you harm the flow of movement for individuals? On the first level, we think at the point in which you increase tax, like as a rich person, you want to avoid tax as much as possible. So what you do is you go out to rural areas. You buy out a lot of property, like literally, guys, look at Nilai and NSTEC. Suddenly you have a lot of these big houses for rich people to buy. Like they even work in KL, but they go back to NSTEC and Nilai every day. That's the form of mentality these rich people have at the point in which you have to tax them more. They are willing to opt out and go further because they can. What this means is you're making prices of houses within those areas higher. So individuals who are in those areas and want to opt for better houses, that's why when rich people come there, there's a bigger demand and people can pay more. Those pricing of houses also get higher and becomes harder for people within that area to access as well. But secondly, you think people out of town of rural areas who want to go into cities also becomes like harder for you to achieve. Actually, because these poor individuals who come from rural areas, who like let's say they were exploited before by these corporations, when they want to move in, they cannot pay those taxes. Like sometimes you don't necessarily have to be too poor to not be able to pay tax, but you're not rich enough to be able to live with those taxations. So this is the middle bubble in which a lot of individuals live in, and it's very hard for like people within those rural areas because that's their form of identity. The comparative is, if you allow status quo to happen, it's much easier for people to buy bigger houses. It's much easier for people to go to cities and get better jobs because they're not afraid of the taxation. They're not afraid of the punishment in which the state provides to you. Conclusion is, don't tax. But secondly, how you change individuals' perception on what lifestyle is. This means that if I, as an individual, like I save money because I want to buy a bigger house, I want to go to a better place, these dreams directly go to waste because I am incapable of affording that. I'm incapable of finding like money to serve all those taxes. This is the world in which all those dreams of having a good life in the city, of having good and like comfortable life for my children and for their grandchildren dies. This is a world where if you're not rich, you're gonna die out. Thank you.
Let's put this into context. Income tax works in a way that you benefit from states giving you infrastructure, we give you protection, therefore you pay back to a certain amount to the state. There's a certain form of reciprocity there. Your people living in cities benefit from all these state resources diverted away from rural areas, giving you facilities, giving you things that are transcend way beyond minimum things that are needed, right? They give you LRT, they give you like this really good looking mall with like a lion called Sunway Pyramid, all things like this. All of these resources also means that to a certain extent, you have an obligation to give back to the state, ladies and gentlemen. In that regard, I don't think saying income tax is enough when we've already shown you reasons as to why income tax is not enough, ladies and gentlemen. 3 questions in my speech. Firstly, the principal justification. Secondly, how does it affect middle class or poor people? Thirdly, what are the alternatives in helping rural areas? Let's first talk about how does it affect the middle class and poor people.
Here's the fundamental misunderstanding of the op bench. We told you right from the start, if you are still in KL, but you're living like in slums and live like near a drain somewhere, obviously you're not going to pay the same amount that a person who's living in Bukit Damansara is going to pay, because we can still see that you are still very poor. In much the same way, we know that if you're poor, you don't pay income tax as much. You can still do all of these things under outside of the house as well. So the second thing that they said is, if you ask rich people to pay more, they'll opt out of rural areas and they won't pay this tax. So by that default, the alternative is status quo, which means that you don't actually achieve anything in your life. They only pay the income tax. At the worst case, it's still net same outcome. But we tell you that actually rich people will not leave these cities. Like, intuitively, logically think, if you're a rich person who's living in KL and have access to movie theaters, like really cool places and things like that, why would you, just because you have to pay a bit more, suddenly go back to kampong and rather live in farms and things like that? But I really don't understand. Suddenly, because I have to pay more, everyone just sacrifice all the luxury that they already have access to. I don't understand that logic at all. Secondly, they said that, all the middle class would, this is a bit of contradiction. They say the middle class would leave, or they say middle class would leave means they don't have access to facilities. Then they say only the rich will leave, but the middle class will stay. So which one is it? I still don't know what they want under that side of the house. But let's engage in both. I already told you why the rich is less likely to leave. But why is okay if middle class are supposed to leave? Let's take into account that these middle class, even when they live in cities, there is no guarantee that they have best amount of lives as much as possible. They said that they want all the poor people to go to cities because they have access facilities. We say this is not necessarily a good thing all the time, because more often than not, when poor people leave rural areas to go to cities, it's less likely that they end up in Bukit Damansara or end up in Subang. They end up in slums, ladies and gentlemen. They end up looking for jobs and not have enough places to live and all these things. So in that sense, we say it's okay if they rather revert back to rural areas. We're perfectly fine with that. But secondly, I think their decision to leave your rural areas is also means that you're complicit with leaving your rural area to suffer while you make an active choice to just have a better life. We say that rural areas would benefit if there are more people, no thank you, to help them, to make sure they work in schools, develop more education, develop more facilities. But your decision to become more selfish means that there is you violated your obligation and we think that's a horrible thing. What is the conclusion in this issue? We say that firstly, we would say that these poor people are not going to be affected as much as they say, because that's already our policy. But even if that's the case, we say at the very least, on comparative, the amount of benefits that they get in return to the amount of tax, the little amount of tax they have to pay, is still far preferable. Second question, principle justification. Here's where they never engage with anything that we told you, because the only thing that they said is income tax. We'd say that income tax is different, because income tax is literally something that is you pay because government pay or give protection to everyone. Means that people in rural area also to a certain extent pay income tax. So all of these things. But the difference between our side is you specifically target individuals who have benefited from state giving you resources to cities only, ladies and gentlemen, and that's a crucial distinction. Means that we can also still have all your income tax, so we can tax we have income tax for rich people in rural areas and things like that. But for the amount of people who specifically benefited from state diverting their resources to the rich cities at the expense of rural areas, this is where our policy targets. But secondly, we also told you that more often than not, these cities develop at the expense of poor and rural areas anyway. Things like Aniq talked to you about, where timber agencies and middlemen in agricultural selling or real estate, all of these things, ladies and gentlemen, means that more often than not, cities develop because they come at the expense of rural areas, and there's certain forms of reciprocity there. Before 6, any POI?
So, why is it not okay for me to be selfish? Because I think it's perfectly fine for me to survive by myself and then contribute back to the rural areas.
Okay, so we think that to a certain extent, your decision of being selfish comes at the expense of the people in rural areas who don't get to make the same amount of choice, and we think that's specific for it, and the government ought to intervene in that regard. Third question, what's the alternative? They responded to nothing. We said income tax doesn't work, their response was income tax. So, and Sara said, they won't pay back in terms of CSR. Literally, Aniq told you that it's okay because here's the thing about your CSR. It depends if the company wants to do it, and there's a very little cap as to how much your CSR is, ladies and gentlemen. But on the outside, we get to mandate these firms and mandate the rich people to pay that amount of tax, and we think that's better. But secondly, we told you that charity and altruism is based on probability. If you feel like donating, then you donate. But on the outside, it says certainty, and that's still far better. And then the last argument that came up in Sara's speech, oh, you increase the prices of houses and that's why our policy is bad. So this is like the fundamental demand policy in economics. Why do we say this is not necessarily the case? Firstly, we say that if you increase the prices and increase more prices, it's a signal for growth, means you can bring in investments and investors will come in and develop. Secondly, we say that just because the prices increase doesn't mean the government is there not doing anything, right? Obviously, there are maximum prices they can do. They can provide low affordable housing, they can raise subsidies, all of these things can still happen. But lastly, there's still competition, right? Doesn't mean there's only one monopoly. Obviously, if you say that prices are going to increase, then firms are more likely to see that this is an emerging market. More people will compete. They'll compete different houses have cheaper prices because competition reduces prices anyway, ladies and gentlemen. So all these things doesn't apply under that side of the house. The bulk of this debate is about whether or not it's justified to let go of the fact that we diverted our resources towards cities at the expense of rural areas. Only if we take back and we tax people, can we redistribute or allow people to campaign for the distribution to better help rural areas. I've never been prouder to propose.
If I were really going to be living in KL, this is not the taxation that I want to happen to me, right? Because the only thing my parents want to do is to try and get out of the middle class bubble that we are in. That's the thing that the nuances that they've been lacking in this debate. This debate happens in a country which is still developing, which countless of times my leader of opposition has told you that there's not many rich people that are around, right? Which also crashes a few of the arguments that they've been trying to tell you. Because the moment in which the concentration of rich people isn't even concentrated in the first place, right? There are very little number of people who are actually really rich and are actually able to access tax breaks and things like that. This is where the entire argument, the entire case false, right? Second, reason why they have to understand the context of the debate is like this. In urban areas, also my leader of opposition has told you that in places like this is the one where they offer you the most lucrative job opportunities, the ones that are able to change your life, the ones that are the most wanted for people who do want to change their lives, right? So it means that it attracts people from rural areas. It means that it attracts people who just want to make a living. Okay. So, first thing that I would like to point out, right, is a complete cop-out when they wanted to say stuff like, oh, we will only impose urban tax on you if you can afford stuff like that, right? It still goes in line with progressive tax and stuff like that. We don't think that the motion is of such. Because if you really wanted to say that people should be taxed accordingly and progressive tax, it means that you already consider the fact that there are people who are struggling to be in urban areas. There are people who still need, that extra money in order for them to be alive in the urban areas. Sit down. Okay, so done with that, right? So firstly, let's just take a look at a few of my clashes. First, on whether is it proportionate or not. Under that side of the house, they said it's proportionate just because of geographical location, just because of the facilities that they offer. We don't think so.
We think the point in which you say all these facilities are things that you should be punished for is the point in which where you say individuals who are unable to even afford a car, and that's why they live in KL, because I need to get to my job really quickly. The people who live in under those circumstances lose out the most. We concede. Sure, rich people will be able to benefit from things like MRTs, from all the facilities, high-speed internet and stuff like that. That's in urban area. That is in urban areas. But more importantly, is whether or not the people who need to access these things should be included or not. Because under their side of the house, what they're trying to make people do is, try to make these spaces inaccessible. What it means is that, firstly, you make these urban areas a place where it is extremely elitist, right? It means that only rich people can live in these areas. It means that from normal schools, it means that it becomes only private schools being able to be in those areas. Why? Because you make sure that middle class people punish for all the facilities that they want or that they are using, right? It means that they are unable to even access that, because realize that people within middle class are also struggling to make ends meet within urban areas. My leader of opposition has already talked to you about how hard it is to live in an urban area. Yes.
Tell me there are more trains going to Kulkarnan cheaper rather than to Tuangsa.
Okay, here's the problem, right? We do concede that there are places in rural areas that don't receive that much infrastructure, who don't have these things, right? But we agree that the slow growth is far more important. But I'll just talk to you about later under key phrase is accountability and altruism really correct. Second, are you really responsible for the people in rural areas if you are a person who came from rural areas themselves? I don't think so. Because the point in which the people in rural areas do understand that they cannot succeed in the urban life, we said they shouldn't. It's a form of your choice whether or not you want to succeed. I feel like selfish. But even if you stay in a rural area, you already can see that you don't have that power in between. Even if you want to lobby for anything, you're just gonna suffer and nothing will work. That's second. Okay, so what the conclusion of my argument on this proportionality is even far better to at least protect the people who do need these things, rather than people who demonize all the time. It's true that these are individuals, because but if ideal partners of time, why can't you just make higher progressive taxes rather than putting it on a geographical location? Sit down. Fourthly, is people moving out really beneficial, right? We don't think so, because when you see people moving out, it doesn't mean that rich people are automatically going to say, infrastructure should be. When people move out, their side of the house, they think that they would lobby for better infrastructure and things like this. So we say that is true, but at what cost? Because the developers who are coming in are people who want to cater to get the most money, the people who would make the prices even higher, right? The people who make housing even harder. And at their side of the house, they would gladly allow gentrification to happen. They would gladly allow people who are in those towns, who are already comfortable with the way that they're living, not able to afford anything at all. It now becomes another urban area. It now becomes a place where they cannot live. But is it true that the governments are more accountable, right? We don't think so, because the point in which we've already told you that there's not many rich people in developing nations anyway. It means that across the country where they think, oh well, now we have a lot of money. This is the part where you overly pressure the governments into asking for more money in rural areas. We don't think that is legit, because at the point in which this happens, it means you'll put higher urban taxes. This is extremely harmful for the things that I've already told you about, that disenfranchises the minorities, right? What about altruism? I told you, this is an exclusive benefit happening at the outside of the house, because what you wanted to talk about how it's not going to happen, it will. Suddenly gives out a lot, tens of thousands of scholarships that are more important than things that they mandate that might not come true. What is the worst
case coming on the outside. In the very least, when there is slow growth, you protect the people that you need to protect most. In the very least, when the nation is slowly progressing, you don't create shock. And the their side of the house, what they're just trying to make sure is people that pressure the government even more, but development is still not going to happen at best. I think in developing nations, in and of itself, as much as there are rich people, there are more middle income people, there are more poorer people. They can pay tax, but it's still a pain. It's still a pain, and it's still hard for them to live their lives. That's the majority of individuals who you have to engage, because they do live in urban areas, because they get access to all those great things. They benefited from that. But the thing is, they weren't necessarily like complicit with exploiting all those poor people. They were just there to make a living. They were just there to survive, to make have a good family, to have a good house, to be able to work. Those are the individuals who you harm the most. I'll talk to you in terms of how principally it's much better or efficient, and even in terms of outcome, sure we take the slow growth, but the slow growth doesn't come at the cost of those majority. But before that, few flaws. I think the way in which they don't engage the middle income individuals is very much problematic. They just assume like, hey, since you're able to pay income tax, maybe you're able to pay the the urban tax as well. That's like an illogical link. In the first place, if you're already like struggling to pay income tax, which is inherent within these individuals, then I think it's going to be an even bigger struggle for you to pay those urban taxes. That's the form of characterization. Like you cannot assume, yeah, you can pay one tax, you can pay another tax as well. Like it doesn't work that way. Because in the first place, like literally the characterization here that these individuals are suffering to pay the income tax. What makes you think they're suddenly okay with paying the urban tax just because like my neighbor or the next neighborhood has rich people? Like it doesn't work that way. People are different. You want to punish that person, like punish that person specifically. I am not in the issue. But in terms of principle, they told you that, guys, firstly, the rich people exploit the poor people, like they give low income wage and all that. So yeah, we provide a counter alternative. You increase progressive taxation for specific individuals who are rich. You don't like the methods of taxation isn't from where you live, but it's literally from your income and from like what you get from your work. It's not like directly from. So we also think like some poor people might be able to afford a car, but it doesn't mean they're directly rich as well. Maybe they just saved a lot of money to afford those houses, to afford that kind of luxury because they worked hard before. It doesn't mean like they're also exploitive just because they live in those areas. Like it's different characterizations, different people, so you can't apply the same metric to tax them more. But even more than that, we think some forms of like access is directly necessary. Like if you are living in KL and you go to work, you need all those internet, you need all those LRTs, you need all those MRTs. Those are direct accesses which are necessary for these individuals. At the point in which like I'm not rich enough to afford a car, so I need all these forms of access. So in principle, we think it's perfectly fine to stick with status quo because all these majority middle income individuals didn't consent to the exploitation they wanted. But even more than that, the way in which they benefit from the privilege is directly necessary in them surviving life within those urban areas, considering with like high inflated prices of groceries, high inflated prices of rents. So those are benefits in which they need. But in terms of outcome, we told you very nicely indeed. We told you how prices of houses in rural areas are most likely going to increase, and even more than that, individuals who want to go to cities now, if you're poor, you are incapable. If you have dreams of getting a better job, you probably trade off those dreams because you are incapable of affording two types of taxes. You more likely do not want to progress your life because you can't afford a house there. Because you like your retirement plans, your plans in which make you happy later on in life, it becomes significantly harder for you to work towards those plans. Those are the middle income majority, which make up a lot within these developing nations, which you harm the most. We don't think that's fine for you to attack them. Sure, it's a punishment for the rich, but let it stay to the rich. Don't let other people who live just because by fiat they live within that area receive that form of punishment as well. Thank you.
Only in opposition replied, I finally understand the confusion on opposition. Our policy is not, Bukit Damansara, Sara, everyone 20% tax. Ampang, everyone 10% tax. It's not like that. It's a progressive taxation. It's relative to your income tax. If you fall under one tax bracket, you pay this amount of tax. If you fall under that 10% bracket, then you pay that amount of tax. The point is, the tax is imposed the point at which you live in an urban area. So you live in Ampang, and you earn 20k, then you have the same tax bracket as the people who live in Bukit Damansara who also earn 20k. So all their arguments about how this is a blanket punishment onto every individual and it must all pay the same amount is wrong. We think our side of the house is far more considerate. Come on, Musta said very clearly in his speech how this is akin to income tax. So therefore, even if you wanted to argue income tax is the same bloody thing, it's just twice more. I'm going to start my speech by I'm going to go on my speech by first illustrating what it means to be a middle income worker in Pengkalan Cepa, for example, which is an extremely rural area, versus one that lives in Ampang. Maybe not the richest area in the world, but probably, middle class, but urban still. If I earn 7k in Pengkalan Cepa, and I pay the same income tax as the person living in Ampang, I don't get as good schools. I don't get as many LRT trains. I don't get as many buses to get to the market. All of these things means that the privilege, even if we earn the same amount and pay the same income tax, is far greater for the people in Ampang. And that's extremely bad. We think governments must play a role to redistribute that privilege. We think people in Ampang who earn 7k and pay the same income tax deserve some form of reciprocity for having paid the same income tax. There was no response on that side of the house. Several concessions that we will make on side government. Number one, we will agree. Some people will pay more. The middle class individuals may have to move out of urban areas because things are really bad, and then therefore if they go to kampung, they cannot get all the privileges that they would have otherwise in an urban area. We told you that's not necessarily a bad thing. And this was solidified by Sara's speech. Sara came and told you that markets will rise, you will have a lot of different businesses that enter the market, stuff like that. So this means that your privileges will eventually be there anyway. But we also told you that these are individuals who are complicit in all the cyclical poverty that exists in rural areas. We told you what? We told you that these are people who took out their human capital from those areas, took out votes, took out resources, took out all these other things that could have otherwise made those places better. And that's far worse. So that's why it's not okay to be greedy. And that's why you owe a responsibility to these individuals. Because you being selfish took away the opportunity for other people to also be, to be successful and have better off lives. But in the worst possible instance, we think a poor man in a rural area is far worse off than a poor man in an urban area. So if you're extremely poor, right, you at the very least are likely to come across an individual who's more charitable and who has a better capacity to donate to you in an urban area compared to that of a rural area. You will suffer far worse. Second concession, even if government corporations lobby to states more now, at the very least we have more accountability under our part. So governments can no longer say that, you know what, I must prioritize the corporations because they are the ones that are funding me, this one, that one. We have a finite amount of resources and we must prioritize the corporations. Governments cannot do that anymore because the resources are no longer as finite and there are more resources to be distributed. So people hold governments accountable and say, hey look, you already imposed all this tax, where's the money going? Come on, bring to the rural areas. So it is far more likely that governments take an actual stance and put more money into rural areas to privilege more people. At the end of this debate, even though it seems like our side of the house is like combination hardcore, you cannot be successful in your life, we think even if under our side of the house we punish some individuals, if the net outcome is a benefit for more individuals, we would gladly make a trade-off. Extremely proud of those.